Welcome to Tech Talks, Evolving Distribution. I'm Corey Hayes, and with me is Bill Rosado. Today, we're exploring how digital transformation is reshaping the distribution industry.
That's right. From e-commerce platforms to CRM tools, we talk with industry experts about how distribution can embrace these changes and thrive in the ever-changing space.
Whether you're just getting started or looking for new insights, we've got you covered. Today's episode is packed with information to help you navigate the digital shift.
So let the tech talk begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talks, Evolving Distribution. I'm your host, Corey Hayes. Usually I have Bill Rosado alongside me today. Today he was not able to make it, but I'm very excited for my special guest that is on today, Tom from Tribute. How are you doing today, Tom?
Good, Corey. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. Glad for you to be here. I should have asked you before we got on. I was about to pronounce your last name, but thought I would mess it up. So
Yeah.
help me out there.
It's pronounced Knoebel. This K is
Knoebel.
silent. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, Tom Knoebel. Yeah, from Tribute. So yeah, super excited to have the conversation with you today. I don't know about you, but this is the first week of the year where I haven't just been absolutely buried in snow or freezing. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we my wife and I had our neighbors came over and plowed our driveway for us, and we realized that we're now the old people in the neighborhood. Like, wait, when did that happen?
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I live in a little like cul-de-sac. So I'm the youngest by, I think, 15, 20 years. So I feel very obligated to go and shovel everybody. So, no, that's funny. Glad to have you on. Excited to have the conversation with you today about just evolving distribution and your experience and what you've seen. And I told Bill before we got on, and I know Bill's not able to make it today, but I told him, I said, it's not every day you get to talk to, a titan and legend in the industry. So I'm really excited for today's. No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So before we get into the conversation and our questions, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you, introduce yourself to the listener, tell us a little bit about TrueLinks, Tribute, and what you guys have going on over there.
Sure, absolutely. My name's Tom Knoebel. I'm the president of Tribute Incorporated. I've been with the company about, 35 years now. I started in 1990 as a software developer at the B.W. Rogers company in Akron, Ohio. If you heard of B.W. Rogers, they were a really large Parker distributor that actually created the Tribute software. They eventually merged and were acquired by Common and then Motion Industries. So you might know those names as well. Even though I was hired as a developer, the first week of work, I was downstairs in the warehouse crimping hose and building hose assemblies. They did that with their employees, which I thought was fantastic. And it has always been valuable for me to have that experience. About 1994, Tim Reynolds purchased Tribute and ran it as an independent software company for a couple decades. I was a junior developer and then a senior software engineer in that period. In 2020, Tim sold to Constellation Software within the Valaris division. Constellation is like a holding company that owns about, 1,000 vertical market software companies like us. Under them, we started really thriving. I moved to manager of development, eventually to COO. And then in May of 2024, I took over as CEO. And Constellation's been great. They really helped us grow. They've provided best practices, but they generally left us alone to support our clients, which I know our clients appreciate, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like we have the best of both worlds. We have this multi-billion-dollar worldwide organization behind us, but we're still a small company at heart.
Yeah, that's great. And for anybody that's never heard of Tribute before, just tell us a little bit more in depth just about like what it is, what software solution does Tribute provide?
Sure. Our primary software offering right now is called TrueLinks, and it's a full-fledged ERP package, very specialized in the niche industry, in the fluid power, hose, hydraulic, industrial distribution, industrial engineered products as well. We've been around for quite many decades, and we're very specialized in our industry. And we have an amazing 16 and a half year tenure of our average employee, which is kind of crazy in the software world, but it's really helped us touch base with our clients. We know their business. We can make great recommendations. Our clients get to know us. They can pick up the phone and talk to a human. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was something that really stood out because I remember being at TripNet, your trade show last year, and heard you say that stat, and it was just like, man, that is wild. Because I read an article not too long ago that says the average tenure, and I wasn't even in the tech space. It was literally, I think, just overall the average tenure of a person working at a specific company is like 2 to 3 years now,
Yeah.
which is just wild to me. And for the fact that your average is 16 is absolutely incredible. I
It
think
really is. Yeah, we have a lot of long-term employees that we value, and they have relationships with our clients, right? They know their names, they know their birthdays, they know, how old their grandkids are.
yeah.
It's a great business to be in.
Well, and something that's so important about that, I think, is and we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, is even though we are tech companies and we provide tech solutions, I think we realize firsthand how much of a people business this really is, and understanding your customers' needs specifically from that particular person and developing a relationship with them. And I think that's really important because I feel like people often say, their worry, their hesitation is the more technologically advanced I become, the less people relationship I have. And I don't know about you, but I would say it does the opposite. It builds another layer of trust, you know?
That's a great point, and I never cease to be amazed by how our customer service reps get to know our clients.
Yeah.
And when they get to know them, I don't mean just them personally, but I mean their business, right? They get to understand the processes that they do. And that allows us to make great recommendations, right? Things that we can get into the consulting realm and not just supporting the product, but consulting, like, hey, these are processes that we have seen worked at some very successful fluid power distributors. Why don't you try this? And that advice is often taken, and it really helps companies grow.
Yeah. And one more curveball I want to throw at you before we get into the questions that we have today. You've said, and I've seen firsthand, and I think it's worth stating that Aldrich and Tribute have had a long-standing relationship together. So we've worked a lot together. Um, you said your ERP is niche to the fluid and power market. I want you to talk about just the power of that for a second, because I have seen and have had conversations with distributors that are looking at ERPs and just try to find like a generic QuickBooks or something like
Mhm.
that. What's the power of finding one that's really specific to your industry and fits your niche market?
That's a great question. TrueLinks is the next step up, right, from a
Mm,
QuickBooks. The QuickBooks is great if you're a little mom and pop shop. You have 2 or 3 employees. You're doing, a few $100,000 in business. But when you start growing, you really want something that speaks to your needs. And you can buy, there are so many generic ERP packages out there, big ones, huge ones. And man, they look slick, they look gorgeous, and they don't really help your person in the shop fabricate a hose assembly, right? And they don't really track the metrics that you care about. And they look great and they're easy to use, but when it gets down to it, they don't solve the problems that are very specific to engineered products in the hose and hydraulic industry.
yeah.
Um, and we've seen time and time again that people leave a lot on the table if they go to a product that does not serve their specific industry, where they can't pick up the phone, talk to a human that can talk their talk, that understands their lingo, their customers, that has relationships with their vendors, right? I mean, we have relationships with all of the fluid power hose and hydraulic vendors. And that's extremely valuable because we can interact with them on behalf of our clients, and we do.
Yeah. I was talking to one of our mutual clients not too long ago and about that same thing. And they were on a generic ERP that I won't throw under the bus at the moment, but they were on a generic ERP, and they said that when they moved to TrueLinks that it was truly the best decision that they had ever made because they found something that fit their specific needs. So I
Yeah.
think that that's great, and there's a lot of power behind that.
Yeah, and people don't realize it a lot. What they have, it works. It can do their day-to-day operations, but they keep having to do things on paper or offline or not
Yeah.
integrated, and it's a time suck, and it detracts from their profitability.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into the questions today, what we're going to talk about. So, 35 years of experience. I'm really excited to throw these questions at you and hear from you a little bit. So what is a common industry trend that you've seen that is actually a massive distraction for most distributors nowadays?
Massive distraction. I guess I'll say one thing that I saw really heavily in 2025. A lot of distributors were distracted by, I guess I'll call it external forces, right? Things
Mhm.
that were largely outside of their control. Tariffs, economic uncertainty, volatility. Those are all real things, right? They're real problems that have to be dealt with, but they're largely outside of a distributor's control. And I saw when leaders focus too heavily on those macro concerns, it slows down their investment in their company and their products, and that causes hesitation. Um, they sometimes focus on minor concerns like micromanaging inbound and outbound freight, things like that. That can
Yep.
distract from the big picture. Like, what's the ROI if you spend hours and hours and hours to save a nickel on shipping something? Maybe it's there, but I think it's a distraction.
Yep.
Um, I, I don't think demand's the issue, Corey. We've seen 3% growth in the industry on average, reading different statistics over the last year. But we've seen good growth so far this year in many of our clients, 5, 6, 7% growth. So
That's awesome.
demand isn't the issue. Um, I think people kept getting distracted by those external forces.
Yeah, and to your point, there's a lot happening in the political world, in the economical world that's just very loud right now. And it is. It's just loud. And sometimes you've got to really focus and Bill and I talk about this just about everywhere we go. You got to get back to the basics of serving your core customers well. And
Mhm.
what do we have to do in order to serve our core customers well and make sure that our business is, like you just said, experiencing good natural growth. And I think that that's really a key to focus on when all of the other voices in the economic world start to get loud. What are we doing right? And what can we really hone in and focus on how to make what we're doing good even better? And
Right.
get back to those basics. I think that's a great point.
And as leaders in our businesses, what are we doing not for 2026, but for 2027, right? Like, what am I doing now that will give me that organic growth next year?
Yeah, and I mean, and just to bring it to our world a little bit and give a specific example. I mean, when we talk about like showing customer specific pricing on a website, and we talk about showing full product catalogs and things like that, there's a lot of hesitation, and I would say in some cases volatility where people think that you know, well, there's just so much going on. I don't want to turn potential customers
Mhm.
into potential competitors and things like that. Um, you know, I would just preach. I would stand as high as I can and preach. Just serve your core customers well and focus on kind of what we talked about at the beginning, building that relationship. And when all of the other voices are loud in the world, how can we get back to the basics and do what we do best?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I get it. One thing that I do see that, I mean, it's rough right now is labor availability, right? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to a distributor that's not struggling to some degree, finding the right qualified help that they can afford to pay. Um, that maybe that's in part caused by our political environment right now. Let's not get into that. I'm sure you don't want to
Yeah, sure.
talk
Yeah.
politics on this conversation, but it is unfortunate, and
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's not struggling with that right now.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying, and you probably have seen this too. We don't serve the flashiest industry, like
Hmm.
there's nothing about distributorship that's like super super sexy.
Hmm.
But you know what's going to attract, the next generation of good talent is offering them good technical tools for them to work with. And I mean, if they come in and everything kind of to your point of what you're saying and what you do, if
Yeah.
everything's on paper and everything's still, running through fax machines, that's not attractive to a younger generation of talent. But, if you have some nice technologically advanced tools, that's gonna attract the right people to your business.
A- Absolutely. And tying into that is, notice that I did not say that AI is a distraction, right?
Yeah.
I actually think AI is a huge gift for distribution industry. Certainly to software companies like us. I don't think it's a distraction. It's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. All right, let's go to the second one here. So describe the moment for me. It can be a personal example if you want, but however you want to lead this. But your solution isn't just a tool. A client of
Mm.
yours realizes that your solution isn't just a tool, but it is a fundamental shift in their business. That aha moment that so your clients have.
Yeah, there often is an aha moment, and we encourage that, right?
Yeah.
It really happens at two times. Sometimes it's during the implementation process, right? That can be quite lengthy for an ERP. E stands for enterprise. It is a massive system, and so don't let anybody tell you that, hey, you could just be up and running on a new ERP in a couple of weeks. So sometime during that implementation process, people come to us and they're like, oh, wow, this is going to change everything. We're like, that's what we told you in the sales cycle, right? But this is why you invested in a new platform. These are the changes that you should embrace. And then, unfortunately, I have seen some companies, or maybe it's more realistic to say some individuals at companies, they fight it, right? Change is hard. I get it. And so you always are going to have some individual contributors that fight that change. We want to go back to the old system. We don't like this. This is changing how I've done it for 20 years. Exactly. I have had, Corey, some of those conversations with business owners gently suggesting that they lay down the law and they say, listen, guys, this is where we're going. This is why we're doing it, and get on board, because they bought TrueLinks for a reason. They want to grow. They want to optimize their people's performance. But sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. The logistics of the move and the resistance they're facing.
Yeah, I would say we've had several distributors on this platform, and part of these conversations, and abundantly clear. The number one issue that they all face is change management. That they've all said that, trying to get everybody to buy into an updated shift, which I think is a really, I don't know, hearing from you today, I think is a good opportunity. If you have somebody that is really struggling to get buy-in from their team, how do you talk to them? How do you approach them that way? And I mean, I know that there's no perfect answer, but what's your take on that?
Successful implementation clients will be transparent with their teams. Certainly at management, you have to have management buy-in, and the most successful changes happen when it's not just a business owner making a decision, but they incorporate everybody in the deciding process. They all get demos. They all look at the profit, the ability of the software to serve their little area of the company. And then once management has agreement and buy-in, then they need to go down to the individual contributors and get buy-in. And I've seen some disastrous times when companies don't do that, when they come in with a hammer approach, like, we're going to hammer this in and you're going to love it. That can work, but it can be very, very painful and slow. So, we encourage people to get buy-in all the way up and down the chain. And that can be hard.
Yeah, it can be hard, and I think it's sometimes so practical that people don't think about it. Just gaining buy-in. I think sometimes they think, well, Nancy's not going to like this. We're just going to have to hit it with her. But I think if you give the opportunity for someone to see the value that you see, it opens up a conversation where they might ask questions that you haven't even thought about. They might ask questions about the solution from an angle that you've never considered, and then you gain a real partner when you have somebody that's with you, and helping coach their team through it as well. So I think that's a really great point.
And that ties back into your question about what's the value of a niche product, right? A niche ERP. Because when those employees ask those difficult questions, there should be answers, and the answers should make them raise their eyebrows and say, oh, wow, that would be great. I could get so much more done if I didn't have to do A, B, and C, and I could focus on D, E, and F. And so it can be quite illuminating to people to see the power of a niche ERP that can help them, because we can talk their talk, and we know exactly where their pain points are.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, but there should be multiple aha moments. And You should share with your team the aha moments that you have so that they can have their own.
That's a great point. And a lot of times one of those aha moments comes during the sales cycle when our sales team is on site and they're doing demos and they're doing discoveries. I'll be honest, we have lost prospects at the sales cycle stage because they clearly see the change that's coming ahead and they say, oh, hell no. Yeah. Right. One owner told our sales team once, if we buy your software, we're going to have to start actually managing our inventory. And our salesman's like, yes. Yeah. And he's like, well, no thanks, go away. You know, and all you can do, Corey, is shrug and say, yeah, I agree with you. If you buy this software, you have the opportunity to completely optimize your processes. And oh my gosh, in today's climate, you can't keep doing what you've done for 30 years. You have to change. It's going to be painful, but those who do are going to grow. Those who don't are going to get run out of town by those who do, or they're going to get acquired at a multiple that is not favorable for the owner.
Yeah. And I would say those that don't are far more rattleable, if that's a word, when the voices in the world do get loud, when things like tariffs get talked about, because they're not prepared, because they're not in a situation where they can still feel confident. It blows my mind to have somebody say, well, I'm going to have to manage my inventory. Well, what have you been doing for the last 20, 30 years?
They've been doing, what they've been doing for the last 20 years is Bob in the warehouse just knows every part and he knows where everything is. And we basically go into turtle mode when he goes on vacation for 2 weeks every year. And that's not sustainable. It's not replicable, right? So,
and what happens when Bob retires, you know?
Or you buy a second warehouse, right? You're trying to grow. So
all right. So last question I'll throw at you. What is that one thing? So if a distributor changes nothing else this year, what's that one tip that you would give them? What's that thing that you put on a t-shirt and put on a billboard and say, you need to consider this?
Sure. I talked a little bit about the difficulty in finding right people, right, for your business, and hiring right now is very difficult. So, shameless plug here, but leverage technology that enables your company's growth without adding headcount. Start with that true ERP system that's built for your industry. Is there an upfront investment in dollars? Oh yeah, time for sure. But in today's labor short world, that organic growth is about automating those processes and giving your customers tools that can scale alongside the business. One of those tools could be an e-commerce platform or a customer portal, right? I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Corey, but aren't you not surprised at how many small to medium-sized distribution companies are leaving tens of thousands of dollars of e-commerce revenue on the table and they don't even know it, or they don't think that it's significant? I just don't get it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it's I think that's the number one thing that I would say. If I was in your shoes today on the other side of this, I would say it's embrace technology, because it's not going anywhere. In fact, a generation is raising up and will continue to raise up that expects technological advances. So continue to embrace technology.
Absolutely.
Two more questions I want to ask you. First one, we talked a lot about from just the technical standpoint, the benefits of an ERP. But something that's impressed me is the culture that I've seen at your TribNet show and just everybody being in the same room together. I want to give you the opportunity to just kind of talk about that, like the power and the benefit of being a part of an ERP environment where you can actually share ideas and what TribNet has done for Tribute.
Absolutely. We've been doing TribNet for 30 years, and in my position within Constellation Software, I'm talking to dozens and dozens of other software companies. Many of them do not have an operating, user group that meets annually in person. And I tell them, you're crazy. This is the greatest thing, the greatest gift that we can give our clients is to put them around other clients. And sometimes these people are competitors, and yet they come to TribNet and they interact with each other. They share best practices, they learn, they challenge each other, and they go out and they grow. And that peer-to-peer interaction are some of our most requested activities at TribNet, right? They're the sessions that the most people sign up for. Because, we have a 16-year tenure, and that's great. And we know a lot about our clients' business, but we're not there doing it day to day. And so when you can come and talk to somebody who's doing the exact same thing on the other side of the country, and you can share the same pain points, that kind of culture just, I mean, you can't replicate that. We have online chats that our clients can do that and ask each other questions, and we jump in and help answer as well. But that face-to-face gathering for a short week, man, that's so valuable.
Yeah, that is awesome. And when I was there last year in Pittsburgh, I was just blown away by the culture. It seemed like a lot of good things happening in the room. So yeah, that's a great benefit of being a part of an ERP like this.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, I get challenged at those TripNets, right? I got to stand up front and say, this is how we're, modernizing our product. This is how we're making changes. You asked for this and we did it, and so I get held to task by our client. Our clients are really sharp and they know what they want, and we're doing our best to give them everything they want.
I think that's evident. So the last question I'll ask you, and this will be the easiest one. So say I'm a fluid power distributor and I'm listening to this, hearing about Tribute for the first time. Where can I go to find more information about you? How can I get in touch with somebody at Tribute, and what's that look like?
Sure. Two good ways. You can go to Tribute's website, www.tribute.com. But you can make connections there with our team. Would love to come out and do a discovery and learn more about your business. I think if you do, you'll find out that we ask a lot of questions, and we observe and we see what your business is like. We'll be there on site and we'll ask a lot of questions. A second way, Corey, is that we attend all the major trade shows, IDCO, NAHAD. We're there. We have a booth. If you're curious, just pop up and ask us some questions or talk to other people in the room. You'll run into a lot of very happy users of our software. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being on today. Really enjoyed our conversation. And I might have to try this thing without Bill a little more often.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just playing. No, it was great to have you on. Great to talk to you again, Tom. And thank you for being on. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to another episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Remember, we have episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday, every other Tuesday and Thursday of the month. So we're really looking forward to having more episodes come out. And yeah, feel free to subscribe. We also have a newsletter on LinkedIn called Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Would love for you to be a part of that. And yeah, thank you, Tom. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
All right. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Thanks for tuning in.
And we hope you've gained some valuable insights on how to embrace digital transformation and stay ahead in the distribution industry.
A special thanks to our sponsor, Aldrich Web Solutions, for supporting this podcast. With over 20 years of experience, they've been helping distributors win online and maximize their digital presence. Be sure to check them out if you're ready to take your business to the next level.
And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And of course, share this with anyone who could benefit from this conversation.
We'll be back next time with more expert insights. And until then, keep evolving and embracing change.